and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay, folks, I've been waiting to see something like this. Ralph Nader calling out the progressive movement. Now, on yesterday's show, not on yesterday's show, but on Friday's show, myself and Lauren, we were talking about how AOC and the squad are not the leaders that we expected them to be. They have marched lock and step with the Democratic establishment. And if you hear any talk about how the Democratic establishment is too left wing or too socialist, I don't know. They're voting corporatists through and through, and they abandoned the railroad workers. They abandoned everyone that they made a promise to. And so I want to pull up this interview that Brianna Joy Gray did with Ralph Nader in regards towards the squad, the progressives, and how, in all reality, we haven't gotten anything from these elected officials, these jagoff politicians. They have abandoned us. Let's play it.
What the progressives have failed to understand is they're going there to serve the people. There's nothing else they should demand. No special assignments and this and that. They get these special assignments and they do nothing. Nothing. I mean, what have they done in terms of getting hearings, long overdue hearings on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, using the opportunity of Israeli and Palestinian peace advocates, which have never been given a voice at a congressional hearing in the last 60 years. They do nothing. What have they done on Social Security by getting on these committees? Nothing. What have they done on living wage? Nothing. What have they done on upgrading the federal corporate criminal law code, which is obsolete and ridiculous in terms of equipping enough federal cops on the corporate crime beat? Nothing. Not only don't they get anything, they don't even put the bills in most times. So you can have a bill number and go out, citizen groups go out around the country rallying around the bill number. That's a totally repudiated argument. It doesn't hold water, and it's a disgrace that they would even try to float that idea. The only way they can get anything is to say no, and we're withdrawing our votes, and then go to the table and negotiate with the corporate Democrats. And the corporate Democrats know that the margin with the Republicans over recent years has been quite narrow, and that these progressives could be as powerful, if not more so, than the so-called Freedom Caucus, I call it the corporate caucus, in the House of Representatives. I mean, Boehner basically quit, and he blamed those 32 members of his caucus.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. Farron, I know that you've done a lot of coverage in Washington, D.C., especially when it comes down to the squad. I mean, your thoughts on them? I mean, in 2018, they were elected into office, and since then, they've been riding that good wave and trust by progressives and people who thought reforming the Democratic Party was a way to go. But everything that Ralph Nader said in those 2 minutes, I can't come up with any defense for the squad. I mean, they in 2021, they ignored forced to vote for Medicare for All, the March for Medicare for All, the 3-day General Strike Summit meeting. They didn't fight for a $15 minimum wage increase, and only now recently they abandoned women's reproductive rights and also the railroad worker unions. Farron, your thoughts? Because the thing is, what a lot of our audience members may not know is you have done a lot of ground reporting in Washington, D.C., and you've seen things that, well, a lot of us only can think about or only hear hear eventually later on down the road.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting now is, like, I think the chickens are coming home to roost a little bit. Like, for example, you have AOC being investigated by the House Ethics Committee, not because of, anything as far as, maybe a bill that she did, because she doesn't write any bills. She's, sitting getting donor money all day. But it's over who paid the bill for her to go to the Met Gala, where her, tax the rich dress made, headlines. She's now under an ethics investigation, along with, there's one more that went to the Met Gala as well with her. I can't remember who it is. It's escaping me. But either way, that is, and to me, the reason why I bring this up is the Progressive Party is supposed to be, the people's party, the ones fighting for the common worker, the blue collar workers, trying to bring the bottom up to the middle class. And here she goes to the Met Gala where it's $35,000 a ticket. Oh, and now we find out she might have gotten bribery money to go, or there's a whole ethics investigation, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens and what comes out of that. But yeah, precisely, they're still riding that 2018 wave of, we're going to come in and change things up. But then whenever they have the opportunity to do so, they say, well, you don't understand, this would shut down the railroads. Well, you don't understand, this would do this with the airline companies. Then let it happen. That's the only way that people understand at this point. And I'm not, God forbid, I don't want people to not get their presents on Christmas and not be able to have public transportation and whatnot. But sometimes that's what it takes in order for people to understand. And time again, they completely just, they kowtow at the end of it all. And it's like, you can't ride that 2018 wave anymore. You're has-beens who do nothing.
I also want to talk about another has-been too. I want to talk about Bernie the Cuck Sanders. And look, maybe I'm being too mean. Maybe that's the case. But here's the thing. Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in 2020 ran that good wave of support from a lot of people across this country. And look, I was one of those people too. I believed in Bernie Sanders' message. I actually had the audacity to hope in 2020. Guess I'm a sucker. I really thought his campaign would be ready. But if there's ever more proof, and this for me, the line has already been crossed, but now this is like, again, it cements my view of Bernie and really how weak he is as a politician, how he threw away his revolution, how he threw away his movement. Chris Hedges was right. Not only was Chris Hedges right, Chris Hedges was correct in his analysis and summary of the failure of Bernie Sanders. And I'd be more than happy to have Chris Hedges on our show, just to hear him talk about Bernie Sanders and how exactly he has failed progressives, independents, and everybody else in the political spectrum. Because if you're a voter and you look up to Bernie Sanders, here's what a cuck looks like. Here's what a nutless wonder looks like. Here's what it looks like. Here's somebody who goes to the Biden-Harris administration and says, please, sir, can I have some more? And they spit right in his eye.
But I just have to ask you, you wrote a letter to the president asking about getting paid sick leave to U.S. rail workers. Have you heard back?
Not yet, but that is, look, here's another, when you talk about corporate group.
Okay. He wrote a letter. Not yet. Just going to play it again one more time, and then we'll continue on. I'm sorry, folks, but you just have to hear it again.
To the president asking about getting paid sick leave to U.S. rail workers. Have you heard back?
Not yet, but that is, look, here's another, when you talk about corporate greed, the rail industry is a perfect manifestation of that, making huge profits, not giving their workers 1 day.
So are you.
Guaranteed paid sick time. That is an outrage. That is an issue.
Okay, and he's saying things that we've all heard before. Yes, Bernie, I know what the fuck you're going to say, but for fuck's sake, where's your balls? Where's your heart? Where's your soul? Where's your backbone? Where is that fire? Was it all just a lie? Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. Hey, folks, in 2016 and 2020, the Bernie Sanders campaign, his message overall, was it just a lie? Was it all just a one big joke? Was he not expecting it to take off the way it was? Type 1. If that's your answer. Type 2 if you think he really was being sincere.
Well, so right now, Democrats are looking at changing up the whole primary lineup for the Democratic Party. And Joe Biden wants to start with South Carolina when for the last half a century, they've started with Iowa and New Hampshire. And Joe Biden's attitude is we get to South Carolina and we pick up that black vote really early. And, they're talking about strategy and all this other stuff. And it's like, you shouldn't be talking about strategy. You should be talking about things that you're actually going to accomplish that you say you're going to accomplish. Who gives a shit if you go to South Carolina, Iowa, New Hampshire, Wyoming, Nevada? Who cares where you go first? Get your shit done. And that's one of the things is like when I was covering that story last week, I had to get footage from the DNC in 2016. And I have to tell you, like back in 2016, everyone was looking at Bernie Sanders when he stood up there and said, I cast all the votes for Vermont for Hillary Clinton. He got a standing ovation and everyone was like, wow, what a great guy to unify the party. You know, Bernie stands were really upset about it, but here he was looked as this figure of just democracy coming together. Now I look at it, 6 years later, and I'm like, wow, what a pathetic piece of crap you have become. You have sold out every single time. But then, like, I will say, Bad Cookies in the chat reminded me that the squad does do a lot of work. They do a lot of virtue signaling on Twitter. And I forgot how much hard work that is. But that's what they all do. That's the only thing that they know how to do. They know how to run their mouths. They don't know how to run their fingers and make a bill. You know, even Joe Manchin, he's all pissed off right now because he's like, oh, you didn't put my West Virginia natural gas pipeline in the defense bill, and the progressives promised me they would. It's like, well, Joe, did you honestly think your friends were going to like do what you asked them to do? Oh, I got this. I took this out of the infrastructure bill so we could put it in the defense bill, and now they didn't do it. You really thought that they were going to follow through with anything at this point? You know, and it's just one of these things like, so now he's going to push over to the Republican side because he's going to be all pissy because Joe Manchin is the biggest crybaby in the Senate. And then Kirsten Sinema, right? Kirsten Sinema is the attention whore because God forbid Raphael Warnock got a little bit of attention. Now it's, I'm going to be independent. You know, those two really just are, really, you got to give it to them. But but again, they never follow through ever.
And the thing is, though, what angers me is that when I was there, and this is before Harlan's Media came into existence, myself and Daniel, we were at the Wells Fargo Center in 2016, and on the last day when Hillary Clinton was named a nominee, Daniel and myself, we went inside the Wells Fargo Center, and what I saw was not peace and love. I saw Bernie Sanders supporters, volunteers, and Green Party people being spit on, physically assaulted, women being thrown to the ground. If you had the Clinton people were being extremely violent. I don't ever believe that propaganda that the Clinton people were nice. No, that's not what I saw. Oh, I saw something completely different. I saw what was happening to Bernie Sanders supporters and volunteers. And the thing is, Bernie let that happen. But hey, there's always that new batch. There's always that new batch of progressives. Maybe Ralph Nader's wrong. Here, let's talk about leadership. Let's look at the person with a backbone. Her name is Pramila Jayapal. That's right.
Let me talk about next year, and I know you're happy about this because Congress is welcoming a new batch of progressive representatives after the better than expected midterm for Democrats. You recently said there's no question that this will be the most progressive Democratic caucus in decades. So what will that?
You know what that means?
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah, so it's going to be progressive, which means they're going to vote corporate Democrat, which means they're not going to fight for any of the other issues. But hey, Farron, double check and triple check your emails because Nancy's going to be asking you, Farron, it's the danger right now. I need $15 from you so I can get my alcohol. Just calm down.
Can you scroll back for just a second? Start at the beginning because I want you folks to see something. Why? Excuse my French, bitch. Why are you smiling? No, really, why are you smiling ear to ear? You screwed over railroad workers. You just gave $45 billion more to the Pentagon. You have childcare, the childcare tax credit. We don't know if that's going through or not. You have a spending bill. Why are you smiling? What do you have to smile about right now? You should be coming on here saying, we still need to do this. What is so happy right now?
Well,
the fact that you don't work?
Yeah. No. She can smile and doesn't have to do a goddamn thing. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. I mean, the audacity of these people. Yeah, I know, right? Screw the railroad workers, 6 days. Screw you.
By the way,
it's just like, what?
By the way, when I covered that story yesterday about the railroad workers, it's in our AOC segment that we clipped. A lot of those railroad workers don't come home. Like it's rare for them to come home. Like they're there at
railroad
their job.
Workers and truckers, some of the most abused guys, and they lug everything. You get your Amazon packages because of these two industries.
Yep. And look, folks, I mean, they're human and they have their breaking points too. if they go, I know for a fact a lot of latte drinking liberals in New York or in Los Angeles, they're not going to do that kind of work. Nope.
Mhm.
Let me talk about next year, and I know you're happy about this.
Why is she
because Congress
smiling?
is
No,
welcoming
now
a new
it can't
batch
get
of
out of my
progressive
head.
representatives
Right?
Fuck.
after the better than expected
First thing
midterm
I
for
thought of.
Democrats. You recently said there's no question that this will be the most progressive Democratic caucus in decades. So what will that look like, though, in a Republican-controlled House? How significant is this, the election of, and yet the having to work with a Republican-controlled House?
Well, first of all, this new group of members is amazing. I just have to start by saying that 16 of our 18 Progressive Caucus candidates won in seats across the country. All 7 of our frontline incumbent Democrats won. This is incumbent and incoming Democrats won. This has been a very, very validating election for the ideas that the Progressive Caucus is moving. And we will now be close to 50% of the new Democratic caucus with a new Democratic leader that is a progressive as well,
Hakeem Jeffries doesn't like you, Pramila Jayapal. I mean, I'll give Hakeem Jeffries this. He's honest. Okay. He did everything he could to create some super PACs to stop progressive Democrats. That means slapping around Justice Democrats, DSA, Our Revolution, Brand New Congress. That man bent over backwards and then did it again just to slap you in the mouth, and she has the audacity to smile. So let's not listen to any more of that, because I want to pull up something here. And this isn't against him, because obviously, let's face it, not all of us have good credit, but you know.
Well, no. Here's somebody that's part of the people that
Yep.
remember, progressives want young people, young-minded people to come on into Congress and change things up like an AOC. Your first Gen Z congressman who's probably got student loans, who's probably got loans out the ass from God knows what else. He comes to DC and talks to the people and says, hey, I have really bad credit and stuff because I have a lot of debt from school. And they're like, don't worry, it'll be fine. Was denied by every single apartment complex here in DC.
So what is he going to be sleeping in his office? That's what I want to know.
I mean, who's to say at this point? But I just find it so funny that like this is here's somebody that's walking into DC and he's getting a reality check right away. And he's about to see, you know, all of these people that come. Yeah, we're for the people. I hope this kid stands up and is like, actually, yeah. Yeah.
So, and again, just to point out, AOC also ran as a young progressive candidate in 2018. That she could not afford to rent an apartment in Washington, D.C. as well. But hey, AOC is now going to those Met Gala events, though, folks.
Yeah.
She's living it up. She's living it.
The average apartment here in DC right now is $3,000 because
$3,000. Sorry, don't mean to yell.
The median salary here in Washington DC is $225,000, and that's from congressmen and senators. They get about $174,000 to $185,000 a year. Speaker of the House gets $250,000. And then the higher up you go, and that's not even counting lobbyist money, folks. So when you have this upper echelon of people that are all government workers, which, mind you, they always get paid. Whenever there's problems or a crisis, they're always going to get paid because it's our tax money that funds them. They're not a small business where if they come on hard times, you might miss a paycheck here and there. No, they constantly get paid. They never miss a paycheck. And they're always here to say, oh, yeah, we'll vote for another raise for us. Always 100% vote, mind you, with that. They got another vote coming up for their raise in 2024, which, you know, that's going to be bipartisan support. But then you also have the really, really poor people. If you come to DC and you walk through Chinatown, so many homeless people here. And then that they're dropping off illegal immigrants here. I mean, in some ways, I was kind of glad that people dropped them off here so that congressmen can actually see and have to walk through these tent cities. But it's just the reality check that needs to be done with these folks is now more than ever. And this poor kid, you know, who has shitty credit. I mean, I'll tell you, my credit took a hit during COVID as well. But, you know, it's one of these things where your future congressman can't even get an apartment. He's part of the people, folks. And let's see what happens.
Two things will happen. Either one, he's like, holy cow, the system's working against us, and maybe he chooses to run as an independent. And I'm being idealistic here. Or two, what will probably be the most likely thing is he'll end up like the Squad. He'll end up like Bernie Sanders. He'll get on his feet, enjoy that 6-figure salary and all those other wonderful social benefits, and be like, progressive what? That's what's going to happen. So is Ralph Nader wrong about calling out the hypocritical Democrats, the fraud squad, the scabs? No, he isn't. Because you already know right off the bat, no one has a seat at the table unless you are in the cool kids club.
You also forgot option 3.
Mm.
A Democrat slides in, covers his new apartment or rents out his condo, and therefore is indebted to that Democrat until he finds a new place. I mean, that's really what's going to happen. I'm a realist.
Yes.
Mhm.
You know what? Farron, you have the final word and the final win. There you go.